Hello. So I realized towards the end of March that I never uploaded my books I read in February. So this is going to be a combined books I read in February, books I read in March. So you're going to jump back in time to me at the end of February, time I read in February, and then we'll come back to current me, and you will then see what I read in March. I decided that instead of like last month, I did it by like lowest rating to highest rating. I decided I'm just gonna do it by genre and sort of do it in order that I read them, because we were a very genre specific month. We're gonna start with like historical thriller, because I don't have this book, because I read it as an ebook from the library, which I did because I had a feeling that I wasn't gonna like this book. This is In the Hands of Dante by Nick Torches. I'm not 100% sure pronounce that. Anyway, I I don't even know how to explain my problems with this book in a way that is safe for consumption. Um, this book is misogynistic. If you told me that this man was misogynist, I'd believe you. And I do mean the author. Because this is. So first off, I should say, I gave this 1 star. I I in my review on Storygraph, I did say that I could see myself bumping this up to a 2 if the book started at page 180. Because a lot of the things that I hate about this book happened before page 180. And everything after page 180 feels like a slog to an extent. The whole premise in what I was told about this book was that it is about a guy named Nick, because it's take on Dante, so why not also make it a self-insert fanfic? And he, has to, steal, finds out that, there's a copy of Dante's Inferno written in Dante's hand, and they can steal it. The actual heist is only 1 chapter. Now, there is a movie that was filmed. It's not out yet, but they filmed it, coming out based on this book, which is the whole reason I was reading the book. I'm hoping that they take like that whole chapter and just like expand upon it. And then like everything happens after, right? Like I'm really hoping that that's sort of where the book starts, which is about page 180. Nick is not the most misogynistic character in this book. But he's not great. You know, he literally at one point is like, yeah, my daughter is like the only woman that I think is attractive. Or like, no, he doesn't say attractive. He says beautiful. That I didn't want to have sex with. And like the fact that you have to say that, that's the floor, sir. Like not wanting to sleep with your daughter is the floor. But yeah, no, it was bad. Okay, so next we're gonna go with like sci-fi fantasy. More sci-fi than fantasy. And we're gonna start with The Fifth Season by N.K. Jemisin. This is one of my favorite books. This book is so smart, and I can't explain how smart it is without spoiling it. Like, just know that this book is amazing and fantastic, and I loved it. It is following 3 perspectives, set in this like future society in which like they basically have avatars. Like and by avatars I mean that like that magic system of like basically they're all earthbenders as far as I can tell. I say that having not actually seen Avatar in any form, but you know what? I at least understood the cultural reference to be like these are just earthbenders. Not airbenders. They're earthbenders. But yeah, no, it's such a gripping world. This is book 1 of a trilogy, and I'm gonna have to pick up books 2 and 3, because I loved it. I already knew going in that I was gonna like N.K. Jemisin's writing because I did read the first book in the City We Became duology. I think it's called the Great City actually duology. But I read book 1 in that, so I knew going in that I was gonna like this probably to some extent. This is brilliant. There's a reason that she is the first author ever to win the Hugo Award 3 years in a row, for the series. It's just so smart and brilliant, and that's really all I can say without spoiling it. But yeah, no, fantastic. Now I liked so the next book was Parable of Sword by Octavia Butler, And I think that I sort of ruined my ability to enjoy this book because I read it not immediately after fifth season, but I read it really after fifth season, and I don't read a whole lot of sci-fi. And so it not being as like, don't get me wrong, this book is so good, and I definitely want to read the second book in this duology. But it didn't hit the way that I wanted it to, and I think partly because I had such now high expectations for a sci-fi book. This was just like not meeting it. Don't get me wrong. I think there's some really smart things going on here. I like sort of the commentary. I hate how not unplausible this storyline is. Like literally this book takes place starting in July of this year. And I'm like, oh yeah, no, all of this could happen. And I hate that. I hate that so much. But yeah, no, this was great. And I'm glad I finally read it. Even if I only gave this a 4 stars. I think, did I give it? Sorry, now I'm checking my story graph. Yes, I gave this 4 stars. I obviously gave the fifth season 5 stars. But yeah. Next, the romance section. I started with Can't Let Her Go. This is probably my least favorite book that other than In the Hands of Dante, this is probably the least favorite book that I read this month. Not because it wasn't good. I'm really weirdly picky about my contemporary, like, romances. I don't read a whole lot of them, and so when I do, I'm a little bit more critical of them, I think, than some others, and this, well, I think is really cute, and I liked the characters. It just didn't quite, like, hit or stick with me as much as some of the other romances that I read this month. So, that's where we are with that. I do believe, let's see, I gave that one a 3 stars. This is my... This is a contender for favorite book of the month. That and the one we're talking about at the end. This is Midnight Ruin by Katee Robert. This is the 6th book in the Dark Olympus. I'm not going to talk too much about the specifics of this book, other than to say that it is a reimagining of Orpheus and Eurydice and, oh my gosh, Chiron. And it's so good. I loved it. I loved their individual story. I loved the further building of the overarching story. So good. So absolutely good. I also now just want more romances with groveling. Katee, thank you for giving me this book. Next we have Mikki Chambers, Shakes It Up. If you're someone that hates, like, sort of instant love, problematic, like, power imbalance, if you're not the hugest fan of, like, sort of the third act, like, miscommunication that possibly could lead to a breakup, but not quite. It's not a full breakup. This book's not for you. But that being said, and I don't know that I love some of these tropes, like, personally, I just kind of liked these characters enough that I could get around some of them. So Mikki, Chambers, she is a professor, she's an adjunct professor, and so to make more money on the side during the summer, she starts working at a bar, and it turns out her boss is one of her students. So, like, it's not just like, oh, you know, dating a student. It's like, I'm dating a student who also is my boss. Like, it's so ridiculous. And yet, I ate these two up. Also, I love, one thing I love about this book is that they're both older protagonists. She's in her 30s, and he's in his 40s, and I liked that it was a romance novel, not about 20-somethings. Yeah, it made me very happy. Sorry, my nose is, like, being really stuffy today. But speaking of 20-somethings, Outdrawn. This was so cute. I liked it a little bit less than Mikki Chambers, but this book definitely stuck with me more, if only because, both of our main protagonists, Sage and Noah, are both oldest daughters. And just the way that, like, this book deals with being the oldest daughter in a family and feeling the need to take on everything, and, like, just, it was so good. It was so good. I loved the story. I loved the characters, but I loved that aspect so much more than I did the romance. Don't get me wrong, I like the romance. I think they're a cute couple. I just, as personally an oldest daughter, this book spoke to me in a deep way that I just loved. Another book that Mikki Chambers, I gave 4.5 stars, and I think also, Outdrawn I also gave 4.5 stars. Now, this was another 5. This was another 5. Actually, these next year were 5s. But the last one in our fantasy, in our romance section, I don't know why I said fantasy, is Love Theoretically by Ali Hazelwood. This book, man. I read this book, and the entire time, it's very rare that I have like book boyfriends. But I would date Jack. I need this man. I loved him. I love their dynamic. I love, like, yeah, it's like you kind of see where things are going like so easily, but I didn't care. This was a ride and a half, and I loved it. I do have Bride, her new book. I'm definitely gonna go back and read some of her other, because I only read this and Love Theoretically, and I kind of thought that like I didn't need to read more like of her STEM books. And then I found out that like I heard really good things about this one, so I picked this one up. And now I'm going to go back and read the other Love on the Brain and then like the STEM novellas, because I love her writing so much. It's like, I don't like. There are some books that I consider fan fiction, and I mean that as an insult. And Ali Hazelwood is not one of those times. This is the best of fanfic, as a published novel, and I loved it so much. It's so good. So good. Also in So Good, one of probably now one of my I think it's safe to say after now reading this book that she might be one of my favorite authors just like ever. And that is An Education in Malice by S.T. Gibson. This is a companion novel to A Diary of Blood, which was one of my favorite books that I read last year. This is also a Carmilla retelling, set in the 1960s in Cambridge, Massachusetts. And that's all I really want to say. It is beautifully written. If you liked, well, not set up in the same diary format as A Diary of Blood, it is still absolutely rich and beautiful and absolutely just immaculate. She has another book coming out at the in a couple of months now. I don't know when off the top of my head, but I'm so excited to read that. I had no idea this was coming out, so this was like a nice, absolutely amazing surprise. And I just devoured it. If you like gothic literature, if you like vampires, if you like dark academia, this book is for you. It's so good. I just devoured it. And I cannot wait to see what she does more. It also makes me just want to read more vampire like novels. I've got several now like in my TBR. I don't think I'm gonna get to them anytime soon, but they are sitting now in my Storograph because I just this was so good. Okay, so now that we're back in the current of April, March was a very slow reading month for me. Very slow. Like, I only read 5 books? No, 6. 6 books. And most of them were not books that I planned on reading. But there's a reason for that, which I'll get to when we get to some of those books. So, the first book I finished in March was Bride by Ali Hazelwood. Oh my gosh, I loved this. I love Ali Hazelwood. I've seen a lot of discourse about how if you don't like her other books, you might still enjoy this, and I concur. But I also love her other work, so like, she's very quickly becoming an auto-buy author for me. This was great. If you love werewolves and vampires, this might be up your alley, and I really liked it. I've decided that I'm not going to be going forward giving my star reviews on here. I don't know. If you want to follow me on Storograph, I will link my Storograph down below, and you can follow me there and see my like starting for things. But you know, I don't know. But I really liked it. I will talk about books that I don't like when they come up, but this month was actually like really good. Next we have The Creative Tarot, by Jessica Crispin. This was a Joniki made me do it. If you are not familiar with Joniki over at Catamancy Tarot, you should fix that. She's absolutely delightful. But yeah, I saw this on her channel and I picked this up fairly recently, like this year. This is maybe like one of my new favorite tarot books. I'm not gonna lie. Yes, there's a paragraph that's like sort of the basic meaning of the card if you're not familiar with the basic meaning, but most of this book is just solid, like, here's how to read this card within the context of being creative and like creating things, and I love that so much. I did play around with some of the spreads, not all the spreads, because they didn't apply to what I'm working on, but I forced myself pulling this book out quite a bit. And working with the spreads in here, and also just like rereading it for like quick reference. It was so good. Absolutely fantastic. Next, this is kind of weird, but I'm gonna preface this with that I am sort of a politics nerd / junkie. So, which is why I knew I had to pick this up. This is the Trump Indictments, the historic charging documents with commentary by Melissa Murray and Andrew Weissman. Melissa Murray is one of the hosts of my favorite podcast, or one of my favorite podcasts, Strict Scrutiny, which is why I picked this up, not gonna lie. But it is literally just verbatim the text of Trump's 4 criminal indictments with commentary from law professors. Do I think you need to read this? I mean, I would like to say that I think like everyone who is a voter in the U.S. should read this, but I also recognize that like I'm coming from a place of very bias of that I like just spent a lot of time thinking about this and like, but yeah, this was brilliant. And I think well worth it. I think that like this is a book that you could definitely get away with like getting a copy from the library. I don't think you need to own it. Like, I mean, obviously I do, but like, I also have a physical copy of the January 6th report. So like, take my, verbiage with a grain of salt there. So then, the trans rights readathon happened again last month, towards the end of the month. I kind of wish that they had announced it sooner than like 2 weeks before the readathon. But next year, I think I'm just going to plan. I'm just going to assume it's happening next year and plan accordingly, because I did end up last minute throwing these on my TBR. But so for the readathon, I read 2 books. Well, okay. I technically read a 3rd book, but I didn't finish it until after April. So, until April 1st. So I'm actually not going to include it in this month, even though I finished it. But, You Made a Fuel of Death with Your Beauty. I loved this book so much. Oh my gosh. I don't normally read literary fiction, which is funny because that's predominantly what I write. But I loved this. It was so good. There's actually like, there's a conversation that happens very casually in this book about, because it's largely about grief, and then love after grief, and it's very beautiful. But anyway, there's a conversation in this book where the main character is like talking to the person they're dating, and they're like, do you have a support system? Like, are you going to therapy? Do you have a therapist? Because, like, you should talk to people that are not me or your children about what's happening. And I loved that so much so that I kind of am writing a similar scene in my own novel, but also very different because my characters are very different from these characters. But, like, I was like, that is brilliant. And I think more characters should have that sort of open, honest communication. I think it's great. It was also so brief. It was also just so beautifully like written. I read Pet last year for the Trans Rights Readathon. So I knew that I was gonna like this. I just was not expecting it to love as much as I did. Because I thought Pet was like, I liked Pet, but like Pet's a middle grade or young adult book, whereas this is very much adult. And it was very good. The other book that I read, that I finished during the readathon, was Coffee Boy by Austin Chant. This was cute. This is a short little novella. It's not even, it is, 151 pages. This is about a trans boy who, works for a election campaign in a small branch office for a senator. And it's really cute and charming, and I absolutely loved this. My favorite book by this author is still Peter Darling, but I think that's just because Peter Darling is longer, whereas this is an actual like novel, whereas this is a novella. This is definitely my favorite of his novellas. Spoilers, I read his other novella. But yeah, I really liked this. And then, so I've been reading the Iliad. I am on book 7, I finished book 7 of 24. So I realized I was not going to finish it for March. That was not happening. So I did quickly grab, quickly grabbed. This was already in my TBR, and I was probably going to do it in May, but I decided that since I was not going to be finishing the Iliad, and I still wanted to try to read a book attached to Greek myth for March, I picked up this book of poetry, Great Goddess, by Nicosia Guilt. I actually have another volume of poetry from her, but this is definitely my preferred of her collected works that I have. This was so good. I definitely want to try to figure out. I don't typically do bibliomancy, but I definitely want to incorporate some of these into my practice, especially if Persephone's Garden deck. And I cannot think of the creator of that deck right now, but she just announced that it's getting reprinted in May, and I'm absolutely picking it up. I'm very picky. I've never gotten a fine art tarot deck because the couple of fine art oracles that I have, because they all use the same time period, have overlapping art. So I've never really felt the need, like, to specifically get, like, from that period, a tarot, but I saw hers, and I was like, I need this. But yeah, so I'm gonna get that when it drops in May, but I definitely think that this will be a good companion to, like, work alongside with that tarot in some way. I just don't know how yet. I know that's what I want to do. So that's what I read in March. For April, the plan is just to read whatever I feel like reading. I don't really have, like, a set. I do know, though, that two of them, oops, I'm just, like, knocking over things. So, I do know that for certain, Tales and Poems by Edgar Allan Poe. This is the Penguins Horror Edition, which is absolutely gorgeous. And comes with a, so this collection was curated by Guillermo del Toro, and I now have two of these. I have this, and I have Haunting Hill House, which you've probably already seen if you saw my my January. Books are in January. But yeah, I think I'm two short stories in. I've not been the hugest fan of the short story so far. But again, I'm only two in. We'll see. Definitely, though, gonna be finishing this. Hopefully this week, if not early next week. We'll see. The other one that I definitely want to get to because I love this author and also I'm considering it like research for my book. And that is The Blonde Identity by Ally Carter. I was a huge fan of Ally Carter when I was in high school. Her series, Gallagher Girls and High Society specifically. I did read Embassy Row, but I didn't love Embassy Row as much as I loved her other two book series. But this is her adult romance novel, and it makes me very happy. Also, I'm like, the novel that I'm currently working on is like heavily inspired by her. Jennifer Lynn Barnes' The Naturals. There's another book that I'm forgetting of right now. It's a duology. It's sort of like my love of those books and also my love of a certain movie from 2019 called Triple Frontier. It's sort of like those sort of like three, those are sort of the touchstones that I am very much leaning into for the novel I'm currently working on. So I'm reading this because I've been meaning to. This came out last year, and I just hadn't picked it up until earlier this year. But also because I'm counting this as research. But yeah, no, I'm very excited about this, to be honest. So also it has blurb by Ali Hazelwood, which like makes me very happy. But again, I've literally been a fan of Ali's work since I was in high school, so I'm very excited to like get back into a new story from her. Although she did write, I still haven't seen the Christmas movie that she wrote, and I know I should. Like, will it be cheesy? Yeah, but like, you know, it'll be fine. It'll be great. Maybe in December. Obviously not now. It's too early for Christmas stuff, but yeah. So those are the two that I'm going to definitely read. There's some other ones that I have sitting on sort of a stack of like tentatives. Well, hello, me from the further future. I filmed that. I filmed my March reads and was editing this together, and I realized I forgot a book because I think I finished this in February, but after I'd finished that video, and so because it was in my February list of books, I didn't grab this. But this is Projections by S.A. Porter. This is her first adult novel. She does have some young adult. I have very mixed feelings with this book. I loved the writing, and I loved a lot of this book. One of the things, though, that kept my love of this book, sort of damaged my love of this book, is that I did not realize it's sort of this weird, like, fantasy, but like magical realism at the same time. So, like, in my brain, this is a fantasy world. And then, like, just a normal world, like a normal. In my brain, this book switched constantly from being a fantasy book set in like a fantasy world because they mentioned like minotaurs and stuff, but then they like mentioned Chicago. Or in my head, I'm thinking this is just a gothic horror book, but then they would mention minotaurs. Like, my brain has such a hard time with that aspect. Also, I think because I've been reading a lot of like romance novels lately, and also because I've been reading some self-published shorter stuff, the text in here felt really small. I know it probably wasn't, but I don't know. It felt at the time kind of on the small side. But I loved the writing of this. I mean, it's literally just about a girl who gets murdered and then haunts the man who murdered her. And the only reason she got murdered was because she told him no. Like, it's so good. It's delightful. I love that because she's a ghost, other people who are able to see ghosts can see her. So like, and they'll acknowledge her like to his face. And I love that so much. But yeah, this was pretty good. I was it like my sorry was it like my favorite book I read in February? No, but I liked it. It made me want to read some like more gothic horror for sure. Like because I think that's what I wanted. I wanted like more ghosty like shenanigans that happened here. But I don't know.